Based on some work that my group did with the FIA surveys, looking at adult HIV incidence and whether it declined during the DREAMS time period. And so this is an analysis with 7 representative data sets. So I imagine that many of you are familiar with the DREAMS program. It was a PEPFAR initiative. The primary goal was to reduce HIV incidence by 40% over 2 years in 15 African countries. The primary implementation period was around 2016 to 2021. DREAMS stands for Determined, Resilient, Empowered, AIDS-Free, Mentored, and Safe. And I don't expect you to see every word in this very complicated logic model. I'm sharing this logic model to make the point that this was a very involved program. It was often referred to as layered. It had interventions at the adolescent level, including youth-friendly health services. There were many social protection interventions. There was work targeting male sex partners and reducing their risk of transmission, and there was community-based mobilization. And all of this had several secondary goals, but the primary goal was to reduce incidence. I want to share a little bit of data that I pulled off of the PEPFAR website. We looked at Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And in these 7 countries before 2019, there were about 1 million girls who were reached by DREAMS, and about $500 million that was invested in the program in these 7 countries. In the analysis that we conducted, we had 2 specific aims. First, we wanted to examine the change in adult HIV incidence overall during the DREAMS period in these 7 countries, and again, this was representative. And then we also wanted to look at these differences specifically by age and sex groups. So we looked at cisgender adolescent boys and young men, cisgender adult men, adolescent girls and young women who were 15 to 24 years, and adult women who were 25 years and older. And we hypothesized in looking at this that we would probably see a difference, a decline in incidence, especially among adolescent girls and young women, because this coincided with the DREAMS period. And let me just say before I move on, I want to make the point that this was not a causal analysis. So I don't want people to come away over-interpreting our results. We were looking at incidence before and after this period. So we looked at 2 waves of nationally representative surveys. We chose these 7 countries because these were the only 7 countries that had data from both time periods, before and after. You could see that the first wave was generally conducted around about 2016, and the second wave was conducted around about 2020. So we combined these 14 data sets. We estimated HIV incidence using cross-sectional recent infection testing algorithms that have been used by the FIAs and developed by WHO. We pooled the estimates of incidence in the overall population and then divided by these subgroups. We weighted the data from these surveys to the population of these countries. So the first wave represented about 74 million adults, and the second wave represented 83 million adults. And then we calculated the change in incidence between these 2 time periods. So first, I just want to show you overall, looking at the 7 countries, what happened to HIV incidence during this time period. So in wave 1, incidence overall was 0.4 per 100 person years. In wave 2, overall, it was 0.3 per 100 person years. And overall, there was a small but significant decline in incidence of minus 0.1 per 100 person years. So in wave 1, about 1 in 1,000 people were acquiring HIV each year. Sorry, about 4 in 1,000. In wave 2 is about 3 in 1,000. So now I'm going to show you our data disaggregated by age and sex. So first I want to show you all of the data by in wave one. So you could see there were really big differences in incidence by these different groups, and the size of the people represent the level of incidence. So in adolescent boys and young men, it was 0.1 per 100 person years. The highest rates were in women 25 to 59 years at 0.6 per 100 person years. And in both older men and younger women, the rate was 0.4 per 100 person years. So when you look at the three population groups other than adolescent girls and young women, we saw declines in incidence. And in all of these three groups, those declines were statistically significant. They were small, but they were significant. When we looked at the change in young women, we actually saw a small but non-significant increase in incidence. So just the population that we expected would have a decline, it actually went up. So these were very sobering results and not at all what we expected. So to summarize, we did not see a decline in incidence in adolescent girls and young women during this DREAMS implementation period. We did see declines in these three other age and sex groups. And so we really have been scratching our heads to think about, what this is attributable to. So there are 3 points I want to make, or sort of 3 potential reasons why we didn't see these declines in young women. So the first is that the way that the logic model that I showed you was specified, or that the theory of change was not correct, that it was too complex, or it wasn't focused on the right things. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is that implementation was suboptimal, that DREAMS didn't reach all the people it meant to, or it didn't reach all the highest risk people, or it wasn't implemented with fidelity to these different interventions. And the third possibility is that what we did was not a causal analysis, and if we had had a stronger analytic design, that we would have seen something different. As a group, our next step is to try and disaggregate the DREAMS districts and subnational units from the non-DREAMS subnational units and see, in a difference in difference analysis, which is a more rigorous design, whether there is some evidence of DREAMS having an impact. And I will just add that there is a lot of other literature examining the impact of DREAMS, and I think it's a complex literature, that supports, I think, to some extent, all 3 of these conclusions, that there's probably some parts of the theory that are not quite right, some suboptimal implementation, and the possibility this is a design flaw. I want to conclude by kind of circling back to the real purpose of this work. There is still, and maybe even more so, a great need for HIV prevention for young women in Southern and Eastern Africa. I think the moment we're at right now is we now have long-acting injectable PrEP, which I think provides a very enticing opportunity for reaching young women who are at highest risk in some of these very high incidence settings. I want to end by thanking the participants from all 7 of these countries for sharing their data and their biomarkers, and I open myself to questions.